my version of pain Poilane from the famous Parisian bakery. Poilane is the legendary bread made all by hand from whole grain stone ground flour, grey Normandy salt and natural sourdough leavening. The starter dough needs some lively, mature wheat or rye sourdough starter. To test if the starter is good to go, see if a dollop of it floats on water. If it does, and yes it does, stir it in, add wholemeal flour and mix to a rough dough. This is day 1. My Poilane is made over 3 days. The starter dough on the evening of day 1, the main dough on the following day, and I shape, proof and bake the miche, which is that type of loaf, on the 3rd day. All the ingredients and amounts are on cuisinefine.com on the Poilane style sourdough recipe page. Cover the bowl with starter dough with cling film and leave overnight at room temperature. The next morning it has certainly fermented. You can see it hasn't expanded or doubled in volume or anything like that, but there is certainly a lot of action there. It has fermented and matured. So now to that starter I'm going to add different flours, water and salt. First water at room temperature and mix it up a bit. A little light rye flour, a bit more spelled flour. It can be spelled wholemeal or spelled white. I've got spelled white here, and strong white bread flour. And you will need some more for dusting the surface and if necessary. I've mixed a little smoked salt into the fine sea salt because, well, it looks a bit like the Normandy grey salt. Now it's time to get my hands dirty. It is sticky, but not horribly sticky, and we need to knead it until it's smooth and stops sticking and basically looks happy. A dough scraper helps a lot, and a little more flour if necessary. Take about 10 minutes, and as you can see, hopefully, it's now stopped sticking so much and is starting to behave, and it's smoother as well. Now, this is much happier dough. It still sticks a little, still a little bit sticky, but it's much more elastic and smoother. Now it's going to rest, and that was a huge workout, so it will rest for 24 hours in a lightly oiled bowl in the fridge. You can leave it for half an hour at room temperature before going into the fridge, just to kickstart the rising and fermenting process. Good night! See you tomorrow! The next morning I've taken out the dough. First thing, you can take it out of the fridge and shape it straight away, but then the rising time is going to be about 4 to 5 hours. You can wait until it's come back to room temperature and then shape it, and I've sort of done halfway through. I've taken it 2 hours ago, and I'm going to leave it to prove and to rise about another 2 hours. It all depends on the ambient temperature, of course. As you can see, the dough has doubled up in volume, so let's shape it gently into a ball and prove it in a banneton like this, or simply a bowl lined with very well floured tea towel. This is looking rather good. And now what we want to do is tighten it so that the outside surface is taut and the seam underneath is sealed. For the moment it's all a bit of a knotty job. A little bit of flour on the surface, and we just basically want to drag it on that surface to seal it, tighten it and shape it into a boule, as that kind of bread loaf is called. So drag it and twist it, and you can actually feel the surface of the dough tightening. Now the banneton needs to be very well floured so that the dough doesn't stick. You can line it with a cloth and flour the cloth, but I'm going to risk it because of the nice pattern of the banneton. I'm going to flour the surface and put it in the banneton upside down, seam side up. Flour the top and leave it until it rises by half, which in my estimate should take about 2 hours now. Cover it with a clean towel and leave it in a warmish place. So let's see. I would say this is about a half increase in volume, so it will be ready to go, and the cast iron dish has been heating up for half an hour. Now this is very tricky, so you have to be very careful flipping the loaf into the very, very hot dish. I'm going to score the surface with the baker's lane. Dipped in water, I find it helps. It's got to be swift, but not brutal. Don't worry if it's a little wonky, it'll find its space. Now I'm going to try and score a C, F, because the original has a P scored into the loaf. This is a very lame CF. Now cover with the lid. And 25 minutes with the lid on, and then 20-25 with the lid off. And it's out. My letter scoring clearly has not been very successful, but who cares if it's risen as well as this?